Hey Tobias, welcome. Thanks so much for joining me, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, from the first time I saw your photography, it's always been so creative. So when you said you'd join me on the show, I knew we were going to get some really good pics from you.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. It's definitely it's been a while since last time we talked, but
It has.
I feel like my styles have kind of shifted, changed a bit. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
good
What
good to catch up.
what way do you think they've kind of changed? Like, what way do you see yourself kind of evolving?
Yeah, so whenever first got into like creative photography, your backlight and silhouette work was kind of something that really like caught my attention that I thought was just the coolest thing ever,
Oh,
and I
thanks.
still do. And so, but with my own photography, I was really focusing on kind of that one style of creative photography, which is like silhouettes, and
Nice.
then um, and then as you kind of go, you realize, okay, there's more
Yeah.
to it than
Yeah.
than,
Yeah.
than just
Totally.
that, and
Yep.
you're kind of building like a toolbox of different types, styles of shots, and
Sure.
different situations. So I feel like I've kind of been trying to expand my bird photography horizons a little bit. I've been trying to do as much wide angle stuff as I can, but that's
Okay.
it's always tricky. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, but well, I mean, if you never get any other shot other than this one, then
oh
you've won.
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was a fun one.
Absolutely love that, man. All right, cool. So how long you've been shooting, just to let everybody know?
So I started in 2015. So
Okay.
in the spring, it'll be what's 5, 6 years.
Nice, man. Yeah. And
So
you're only 19 right now?
yeah, 19. I
Yeah.
turned
All
20
right.
next month.
Okay, cool. Nice, man. Well, can't wait to see where you're going to go with this, man, because you're already killing it. So
Thanks,
it's
man.
awesome stuff, man. All right, you ready to get into the show?
Yeah, let's
All
do
right,
it.
perfect. So let's. I'm just going to let everybody know this is the photographer's favorite show. Tobias picked out 5 photos of other photographers that he really liked. I picked out 5. We're just going to go through them, chat about what we like about each one, and hopefully clue you guys into some new photographers or just kind of dive into the photos a little bit more than the generic great shot or thumbs up that you get to see on Instagram. So I really enjoy getting to do that right now. So here we go. Let's start with the first one that Tobias picked and talk about a graphically cool image. Damn, like this is so neat. These huge, what do they call them? Like murmurations, right?
Yeah, murmurations. Yep.
Yeah. Do you know if this is Starlings? Yeah, it is. I see the hashtag
Yeah,
right there.
Starlings.
Yeah, they tend to be the ones. And how cool! There's like a hawk or something, or a falcon or something
I
going
think
right
it's a
through the middle.
peregrine.
Yeah, going right through the middle there. And actually, I didn't even notice that at first. That's something that kind of shows up a little bit later, and
Hmm.
it's like so neat to see the flock reacting to that flying through there. Wow, man! Like it's just incredible. Yeah, so cool. And the high key look, just like black and white on that, just kind of emphasizes the graphic nature of it. Yeah, man, digging it.
Yeah. What you mentioned about kind of just the graphic appeal to it was that's kind of the first thing that you notice is it's just this very abstract, interesting shape,
Yeah.
and then when you look closer and you realize that what this is this huge flock of birds kind of you can kind of imagine the motion of them kind of splitting up right as the
Yep.
hawk or the falcon dives right in. And so it not only does it have that graphic appeal of kind of just the abstract nature, but then once you understand what's going on, it also has this great story to it. And I
Yeah.
think this is the kind of image that would work like just great printed really big,
Oh, totally.
because you could really look up close and at first you'd see it as just this abstract, interesting shape, and then you realize, oh, this is birds, and
Yeah.
there's this whole story to it
And
that
it's
I
it's
that
behavior, which is so
right.
difficult to capture in wildlife photography. So
Yeah,
it's got that as well. Yeah,
yeah, and
incredible
and
shot,
and
man.
it's just it would be an incredible scene to see as well, just to witness
Right?
that shape. So it's really just has everything going for it. This is one of my favorite photos that I've seen. I think
Yeah,
just
it's
in
awesome.
general.
Have you ever been able to witness starling murmuration like that yourself?
Not a starling murmuration. I mean, you see it sometimes with other blackbirds and grackles do kind of small things, but nothing
Yeah.
nothing to this scale.
Okay.
But watching bird flocks is one of my favorite things
It's a
to
cool
see.
thing, isn't it?
Yeah, because they make these interesting, abstract patterns as they
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah.
Like there's just all the birds just function as this one unit, and it's
Totally.
really
The way they interact
fascinating.
as one is amazing. Yeah.
And
I
they can all change directions so fast.
Yeah. And the type of like when you see it in person or if you've ever seen video, like the waves of how they kind of
Yeah.
move and interact is incredible. I've seen starlings do it once, and it was in a wide open marsh, so it was just huge vast open area, which was awesome. And I was shooting something else and I heard them, like it was a real calm
Oh,
morning, and so I'm like, wow, that's a massive flock. And then I look up, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I just started doing video because I'm like, video is just going to kind of show this a little bit better than the stills because they were really far away. And the next thing you know, the flock kind of they split off, like it split up, and then part of them came over top of me. And the sound of just, the smaller portion that came over was still probably thousands and thousands of birds. And the sound of that flying over top of you was just incredible. So it was such a cool experience. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I didn't know that they actually had murmurations in the U.S. too. I mean, I know that obviously we have tons of starlings, but it seems like you normally see the photos and videos of it from Europe. So
Totally.
that's
Yep.
pretty cool.
Yeah, I was completely surprised. I had never seen it here in the U.S. before, and yeah, again, I don't think it was to the scale that you get over there, but there was definitely enough birds that, and I think I even shared the video on my YouTube channel at some point. So I'll have to dig that back up and maybe,
Yeah, I think I saw that video.
yeah,
Which is when I realized, that I think it does when I realized that, they actually do this in the U.S. sometimes as well. But
yeah. I don't know if
yeah,
I don't even know if they migrate actually. I know so little
yeah,
about starlings, so I'm wondering if they like gather together before they migrate somewhere or something. But anyway.
maybe so. I don't know why they do it.
Yeah, but I can tell you my photo was, or I think I took one or two photos, but they were nowhere near as cool as this one. So, yeah, nice choice, man. Nice choice. All right, you ready to hit the next one?
Let's do it.
All right.
Ooh, yeah, very, very nice. That soft backlight is really great. Just like illuminating those leaves and yeah. What does it got there? Is that a bee?
Yes, some kind of insect. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's like a
So
clump of them. Yeah.
I mean, even if it did, oh wow, yeah, even if it didn't have that behavior to it, it would still be a great portrait.
Yeah.
But just having that food really kind of takes it to the next level. I really like how the bottom of the frame has that out of focus
Yeah.
area, and that kind of frames it all in, brings your eye into the bird. There's that one kind of darker column that leads right down
Yep.
behind the bird, which makes that rim light show up so well.
Yeah.
And then that's you got that nice soft big bokeh ball back there that kind of balances it out. Put perfectly on a third there. It's just a textbook soft backlight.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with what you said, and love having that added bonus of the cool behavior of having the insects in there. It's probably, I'm guessing, that the bird was probably near a nest and getting ready to take some of that food to the nest, because usually they don't collect that many bugs by themselves. They'll usually eat them. And then full disclosure, this is
Yeah.
Antoine. He's one of my mentorship students. He lives in France, and
Oh.
but I don't take credit for his creative compositions and use of light like this, because he was doing this before he started working with me. But he just blows me away all the time. Like the first time I started seeing his stuff, I'm like, man, I gotta incorporate some of this in my own work. He is so good at finding like this great foreground stuff and shooting through stuff. And the other thing that really blows me away with his photography is, when he sends me some photos for feedback and stuff like that, he composes everything in camera. Like I do so little of that. So much of my composition is in post. And I do compose in camera some, but a lot of the time he just nails these compositions out of camera. I'm like, man, he's really nailing it. Which is really cool. And I think he shoots with an Olympus. So I don't know if that just kind of gives him a little bit more freedom with composing or something like that. But yeah, it's gorgeous stuff, man.
Yeah, I can imagine that being a little bit more important if you have a smaller sensor, that if you're in pretty tight,
Yeah.
you want to get it just right on.
Yep.
When you're taking it.
Yeah.
It's also really nice that like it's very clearly backlit, but there's still so much detail in the shadows and in the bird. Whereas sometimes you can have, so it still functions like a portrait. It's not that super strong backlight that makes it kind of more abstract.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting how that plays a difference. And this light looks like it was a bit like softer. Maybe there was some
Right.
clouds it was filtering through, or maybe filtering through some trees or something that kind of softening it up. Because if you have that hard direct sun, then you tend to get the more dramatic thing, like you and I were just talking about. But yeah, this is a sweet mix in between the two. So yeah,
For sure.
all right, let's see what we got next. Oh, come on, look at that scene, dude! I love scenes that are gorgeous scenes even without the wildlife. Like
Oh, me
subtract the
too.
wildlife
Oh yeah.
and it's a beautiful shot already. That's an incredible thing. And then when you add wildlife into
Yes.
it, and yeah, I mean, come on, flamingos just, and they have such a cool pattern going to them. Like there's almost this sense of motion of them kind of all
Hmm.
kind of filtering and moving back this way. Um, the river kind of leading off on this side, just incredible weather and scenery. Like where is this? Chile. Wow,
I
man.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's. I mean,
I,
when it comes to just like
what else do you
finding
say?
seeing an incredible scene, it's just like
Yeah.
that's just about as incredible as it gets. I mean,
Yeah.
like yeah, and it has that all that movement toward those mountains in the back. That's kind of where my eye goes,
Really
and
nice.
the flamingos kind of in the front. There's this feeling that as you go further back into the frame, they're moving faster and faster
It
because
does
those
have
ones
that.
kind of right because the ones in the midground are taking off. So there's this sense of motion, and
Yep.
then I mean the rainbow is just like come on. I mean
Yeah.
that's just
Not fair.
like yeah, right. I mean, you could remove so many elements from this photo and it would still be great. You
You're
could
right.
take out the flamingos, you could take out the rainbow.
Yeah.
Having it all together is just over the top.
Well, and then also it's just the right balance of all those things as well. So it's not too much. It's not too many
Right.
elements. Like they're all still working. They all are in their own space. Like the rainbow is not
Mm-hmm.
interfering with the birds or the mountains here. It's kind of just to the left of them. The way the sun's kicking in underneath there. It just yeah,
Yeah, that's a good
absolutely
point because
ridiculous.
it's rare to be able to include so much and have it work together.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing about shooting a big scene like this.
Totally, totally. Yeah. And I wonder if he was like elevated on something and shooting this handheld or if this was a drone shot.
Uh,
Like
I believe
this
it was with the drone.
yeah, yeah, it kind of has that vibe to it, right? Yeah. So it's just which makes it even more difficult. Just add another
Yeah,
level, you know?
yeah, right.
Yeah. Have you ever played with drones yet?
I haven't, but I really want to.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, there's only as far as birds go, there's only a handful of subjects that it's practically used for. So like
Yeah.
ducks would be one of them, like a flock of ducks. Um, but even just I do quite enjoy like landscape photography as well.
Yeah.
And so even if I were to take photos that didn't include wildlife, a drone just opens up a lot of different perspectives. So
Sure.
that's definitely something I got my eye on, but haven't played with it yet.
Yep, more money, more gear. That's
Right?
how it
Yeah.
goes. All right, let's hit the next one.
Oh wow. Yeah, this is a man. That's such great behavior because
Yeah.
you see this happen where the birds shake off, but it happens just almost instantly, and
I
it's
miss it every time.
right. Yeah, I mean, and at this point, they're well into the air, so getting
Yeah.
it just perfectly sharp like that with just like
Yep.
kind of the maximum head rotation upside
Yes.
down.
Yeah,
It's just
totally.
man,
Yeah.
it's pretty jarring to look at. At first, it almost looks like it doesn't even look right with the
No,
bird's head
he's
the other way.
completely upside down. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
entirely.
And
And
that
yeah,
red background.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean,
because
just it's a nice shot if it was just a regular like flying through portrait in good light, it's flying into the light. That red background is gorgeous and yeah. So adding that behavior just makes it outstanding.
yeah, definitely, yeah. And I mean, there's nothing like particles and water droplets at like high
Yeah.
shutter speeds. It just looks great.
Yep.
It had just how so much motion to it.
It really does. And still photography is the only way to capture that, right? Video, you can see it, but it's always in motion, like capturing that still frozen moment. And listen, I like mixing it up too with some slower shutter speed still photos where you can see the actual motion of water and movement, raindrops, splashes, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But that mix of, getting that frozen water drops, just that split second moment in the air is pretty sweet as well. So,
Yeah, it's also, a great example of, interesting behavior and good light and a good background and doing everything else right. You don't need to have the most unusual or rare bird to make a great photo. I mean, ring-billed gull, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
yep.
It's a stunning photo, regardless of what the species is. It's I think sometimes it's easy to get too wrapped up in like some target species that you really want to photograph, and then
100%.
And then you could miss a great opportunity like this when it comes to photography. This is just it's still great, regardless of what your subject is.
100% agree, man. 100% agree. And so many times these more common overlooked species that are maybe more tolerant, more acclimated to people, or
Yeah.
just more available, are obviously going to create more opportunity for people to take more unique, interesting photos like this. So yeah, kudos to Toby in this case for just paying attention to this species that many people might overlook, and walking away with something killer with it. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
I love just this one little like the curved little spraying drops right there, like right
Oh
off the
yeah.
beak. So you can really see how they are, like that
Yeah,
motion of the spin.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of I kind of missed that in the
Well, yeah, it's tiny on
first
your
glance,
screen.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right, sticking with the gorgeous scenes.
Yeah.
Take the moose out. It's still amazing. The fog on this, the layers on this are so great. I love a photo with good layers, and this has the layers twice because of the beautiful reflection there. Just the nice soft green and browns here with the light fog, then the dark trees, then the mountains, the sky, the cloud, like just layers upon layers here, going vertically throughout the image, but all soft enough and work well together. Scenic composition with the moose and the calf, way off to the right there, so not smack in the center. They're just the right size that they still stand out perfectly in the photo. It's no question that this is a photo of these moose in a gorgeous scene. It's not a gorgeous scene with some moose in it. You know what I mean? I guess it
Yeah,
could be. You
right.
could interpret it either way. I guess since I'm more of a wildlife photographer than landscape photographer, I see it that way. But maybe landscape shooters would see it as, oh, that's a nice landscape with a moose in it. But that fog really sets a mood. And then just was it early morning? Yeah, morning light hitting the mountains back there. Just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely what drew me to the scene. Is just the mood and the amount of atmosphere that is in this photo. It just
Yeah.
you could just feel this perfectly calm, crisp morning,
Right.
and yeah, and having the little calf moose there that's so tiny. That's just
Yep.
it adds this kind of element of these this mother and calf just exploring through the vast landscape. And what I really love about this photo is just how much there is to explore to it.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot to look at, and it just again it's one of these things where it all just works together perfectly. You kind of got this lighter grasp right behind the moose, which are darker, that makes them stand out really
Totally.
nicely. And then because if you imagine those moose, if they were
Against these.
behind, yeah, against those, yeah,
Yep.
then it wouldn't stand out quite as well. But where they're placed is just perfect. And
Yeah.
that light on the mountain, just right as the sun is kind of cresting the horizon, I'm sure
Yep.
it just really just sets the mood for the photo.
Yeah, and that light on those mountains back there isn't too intense, so it's not just totally yanking your attention back there. And then again, some of the stuff you just mentioned kind of brought this thought into my head of the sense of scale here, the sense of how small these. I mean, if you've ever seen a moose up close, they're gigantic, but
Huge,
yet
yeah.
here he's managed to make them look small in this vast scene, and it kind of just shows how vast the wilderness that they live in is, even though they're these giant creatures compared to us. So that's kind of just an interesting take on scale and that sort of thing that Steve captured there. And then I have to agree with what he said at the end there. Effing amazing.
Yeah,
In
right.
his own
Yeah,
caption.
yeah. And there's so much that has to be right about this. I mean, because also that the sky and the clouds, they're cooperating very nicely as well. I mean, it'd be a great image even on a clear day, but just having that nice cloud right above the mountain, it just kind of it all just it's kind of a perfect storm of conditions and opportunity.
Yeah, and that cloud over here, I still think would have done fine, but it somehow is just more balanced in the image, being on this
Right.
side with the
Yeah.
moose over here, and the mountains being over there, right? So this mountain kind of dipping down to right about where they are, this one kind of sloping up, right? So just real subtle visual lines just pointing to our subject, and even this the way the fog is kind of thickest as it just kind of goes right along that shoreline there, just again bringing us right into the subject. So yeah, it just totally works well, really does.
Yeah, it's also nice that it's not the most super oversaturated in your face
Oh no,
type
subtle.
of landscape. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very subtle, and uh and just done so well.
Yeah, and that helps set the mood for it, I think, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, going crazy vibrant with this would take it in a different direction. So, all right, enjoy that one.
Oh, oh yeah. Oh man, that's such a wonderful shot. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is the use of that foreground, framing it in, and the shapes that the foreground makes with those colors, it really just brings your eye right down to it's an elk. Is it an elk? Or
let's
I don't know
see.
what
It's
they
in red deer.
red deer. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Man, it
Yep.
has a big rack.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it just so even though the deer is so small in the frame, your
It
eye goes
really
to it
is.
instantly. And
Exactly.
this is another thing where it'd be a great scene without the behavior, but having that calling elk,
Yes.
it really just brings it all together. And the way that the elk is calling, it kind of has this visual momentum upward, and
Which
and
follows
there's all
that.
this, yeah, which follows that. So it's a very satisfying image to look at and very interesting too.
Yeah. Yeah, Victor is always incredible with his use of foreground and these
Yeah.
scenic silhouettes. Yeah, always something for me to aspire to. I mean, it's so easy to see a scene like that and just seeing it in your eye, standing out in the open. I can imagine just being like, well, this is beautiful as it is. Let me shoot it,
Yeah.
And so for him to have the thought to let me go seek out a foreground element to put in there to actually play with this a little bit more and give it more visual interest, and exactly what you said, right? It makes it so like the brightest area is pretty much right where the deer is calling out, and so it helps draw our eye in there. And I didn't even realize it until you said it. That's a great thing with it calling up like that, but then the light line kind of heading up that way. It really just incorporates well. So and then it also helps to hide some of this vegetation line over
Mm-hmm.
here, so
Yeah.
that's not
Yeah.
pulling our eye away from the deer. And yeah, man, it's so cool. Such a great image.
Yeah, it can be so easy to overlook potential foreground elements that are around because
Yep.
we don't know what this is. It could be the smallest bush that he laid down on the
Yeah.
ground and pointed up
Totally.
through.
Yep.
It's so yeah. I think that foregrounds are the kind of thing that you don't realize when you're missing it, but then over time you start to realize that maybe you're not incorporating as much foreground as you could because it can be so hard to spot. It's very not obvious.
Yes.
Um,
Yep. Yep. Very much. And there's totally times too where I've tried for it and it just doesn't work. There's not the right
yeah.
opening. It's just too dense or too sparse. Like sometimes I've had it
Mm-hmm.
where it's just, it'd be like a little spot up here and a little spot up here. And it's just like, that's not enough. Like it needs to be
Yeah.
just the right amount, because too little looks like a mistake, and too much, you can't find the opening you need. And yeah,
It's also got to be the right distance.
correct.
Because
And
if the
yeah,
foreground's too close, then it's
it's
going to
so
overlap your
blurred.
subject.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Yeah. And then also one last thing, kudos to Victor on just, I mean, embracing the small in frame here, man,
Oh yeah.
which
Oh yeah.
certainly appeals to me, as I'm sure you know, and just not either zooming in or getting much closer, yet the subject still stands out. I love when that works out that way.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah. Dude, that's insane. So going back 2 photos ago with the moose, talking about the placement of the subject to stand out.
Yeah.
It is
Right.
in the one little darkest area in the middle of that waterfall. Just absolutely incredible. Wing spread perfect, tail out, head out. So, this is a shot that if this bird isn't angled just perfectly, is can just totally fail,
Yeah. If you imagine it with the bird
flat,
like this instead of
it's just a
that,
line.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just a
Right. Yep.
line. Or if it was flying straight towards you, even with the wings out, again, just a line. Like the fact that it's banking just right, he actually looks like he's higher than it. So it almost looks like he's looking
Mm-hmm.
down onto it, I would say. And just a perfect placement of that. And my
Yeah.
gosh, the
Yeah.
mood on that waterfall, the light on this and ugh, damn. And
Yeah.
it's monotone, but
Yeah. Go
not
ahead.
black and white. I love that as well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see a lot of photos of these big Icelandic waterfalls,
Yeah.
and they're often, great as they are. though this one, just having that bird in there, it just takes it to a whole nother level, because now
Totally.
it's no longer a photo of a waterfall. It's a photo of the bird, and um, and the waterfall, just the curtains as it's falling makes this, abstract,
Such a cool
really just
pattern.
visually interesting shape. Yeah. And it's also, I love kind of the subtle swirls as on the edges of the waterfall as it goes down, those kind of softer areas.
Yep.
And um, yeah, it's just,
Yeah.
like you said, the placement of the bird and the pose of the bird is key. And I think this is an example of when, having that bird lined, even though it's flying to one side, having it lined up directly in the middle works perfectly.
Oh,
And it's not
100%.
like you want more space over there or anything like that.
Nope.
Um,
Nope.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
because
the tones and the colors are great.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think there are totally images that work well with that perfectly centered composition. And, if we also really break this thing down, it's not centered vertically, even remotely. Like it's totally
Yeah.
upper third
Yep.
in that
Yep. For
regard,
sure.
but the
Certainly.
left right is centered, but it makes sense with the waterfall because I think I feel like it would throw it off if you didn't have the same fall off of darkness on each side of that waterfall. So if the image started right here and it was all of a sudden just bright on
Mm-hmm.
the left side, I don't know that it would
Oh
feel
yeah.
as balanced.
Yeah.
Um,
Wouldn't bring your eye in, and
exactly.
frame it properly.
Yep. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Just
Here's something
killer
that I
shot.
was thinking. Oh yeah. And it's interesting. So Kai, he's normally a landscape photographer,
Okay.
um, but and I think that to some degree it can kind of shape the way you look at a scene a little
Yeah.
differently. So I think that maybe it's kind of like for someone who's really focused on landscapes to uh, incorporate and notice a bird, it probably has to be a very great opportunity, because that's not what they're looking for. And I think there's
Yeah.
definitely times where focusing on finding the right scene and then incorporating the wildlife in it can yield some really interesting photos, because whether or not no matter what the bird is, if you find the right scene, um, and if you can, and then are able to incorporate some kind of wildlife, then it can really
Yeah.
take it to the next level. And in this case, I think something that I was thinking about but didn't quite articulate well is that when you normally see a photo of one of these waterfalls, the scale doesn't come through,
Sure.
but this bird gives it the scale of how massive this waterfall is.
Great point. Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Very good point. And really cool that you know that he's a little bit more of a landscape photographer first, because it's funny. I wonder if his intention of this was more of, here's a landscape photo with a bird in it, and then
Mm-hmm.
again, me as a wildlife photographer, just going back to that moose photo, I totally see this as
Yeah.
a wildlife photo in a
Right.
beautiful landscape.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter. It's just interpretation. It works either
Yeah. For
way.
sure. For
But
sure.
I think it can be it's interesting how it can be perceived or intended either way. But the key is it works both ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
I see. I see it the same way. Is it's all about the bird.
correct.
So,
Yeah.
but then you could also very well see it as a photo of a waterfall with a bird, but
Yep.
it's a little
Yep.
shift in perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Well, he's certainly going to get a follow from me now. So thanks for introducing me.
Yeah, no
All right,
problem.
here you go. You're up.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, I love this kind of gradient of the cool colors at the bottom going up into the warm. That's just warm and cool tones just can blend just so nicely
Hmm.
together, as perfectly showed here. And everything in the photo is pretty soft and in light colors, except for that bird. So it just immediately stands out. And another thing is, this species has such a nice silhouette with that beak.
They do.
It's a great profile there. And so yeah, it's if you have again, this is one of those times where it's already a nice photo, and then there's
Yeah.
some kind of behavior that takes it to the next level. Because if this bird was say sitting there or standing in the water, it would still be a very nice shot. But then
Totally.
having uh, all those droplets really can just elevates it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very much agree with you, man. And how cool that she actually caught lighter water behind it, which actually
Mm,
silhouettes the water drops,
yeah, yeah,
and actually makes them really dark, just like the bird. Like that's such a cool thing. And
yeah.
yeah, I,
Mhm.
I really wonder I would love to know what it is that caused the bokeh in the sky there. Cause I mean, to me, this looks like a wide open area. And so
Uh-huh.
what would cause those balls back there? And I'm trying to see just
Yeah,
sunrise.
because if you imagine like light peeking through the clouds, that
It'd
could
be
do
too.
something,
I would think
but
it'd
you
be
think
too
it'd be
soft.
right. You think it'd be smoother, where these kind of have
Yeah.
a well-defined bokeh shape to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not just blurred.
No,
So,
exactly. Yeah, it
huh?
looks. I mean, that those usually come from like pinpoint light sources, and what would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
doing that? But what's this dark? Is she shooting through some foreground at the top of the frame?
Maybe.
Yeah. Ooh, we have an interesting dilemma, like breaking this image down. Yeah.
Yeah, huh?
I should have
What
asked
kind of
her. I'm like,
foreground? Yeah, I
I
wonder
don't
what kind of
know.
foreground you'd be like, cause she's on a beach, right?
I assume so. I mean, that's where Willet usually are, you know.
Yeah,
Um, but that bokeh up there is definitely throwing me. I mean, it's beautiful. I love it. I think it's such a cool element up there. I just can't figure
yeah,
it out, and that actually makes me like the photo even more. I'm like even more intrigued because I can't break it
yeah,
down. You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, for
Like,
sure,
how
for
have you
sure.
fooled me?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, jumping back a second, it is now that you mentioned it, it is quite interesting how the normally water droplets, like especially if they're kind of backlit like this, you'd expect them to show up as being bright points, but
Yeah,
here, there's not light directly hitting it backlit,
correct. Yep.
so it does have this, these dark droplets, which is now that you mention it, that is definitely different from what you'd typically see.
It is, yeah. It's pretty cool and dramatic, and yeah, I think that's exactly why, right? I don't think this isn't. There's no direct light on the bird. The bird is in shade, or the sun either just hasn't come up, or it just set. You know, like so it's
Mhm.
just that orange sky back there, but just like the soft light everywhere. So, I've totally captured those kind of dark silhouettes and dark drops in that circumstance. But yeah, it's got so many cool factors to it, and yeah, 100% agree with you on the action there. Just adding to that. It's just mayhem at the bottom, but then like this, it just fades up to this soft, peaceful, calm background.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's like a good contrast in that regard as well.
Yeah, I feel like it kind of somewhat kind of creates depth with how just with the difference in the background to the foreground, it kind of I feel like makes your brain kind of realize that just the difference in distance as opposed to a flat silhouette on a flat background.
You're right.
You can kind of see this this,
The space there. Yep.
yeah, the space there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Very much agree. That's a fun one. Oh, come on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Another one, man.
this is an
Yeah.
interesting one.
Yeah. Incredible. Split level like that. Iceberg underneath. Beautiful sky up top. Love the subtle curve of the water here. Just a little bit of bowing. It's not like the extreme kind of fisheye kind of thing. Um, oh wait, plastic berg.
Yeah, I was gonna say, got a little surprise for you here.
I
That is
see that
actually,
now.
yeah,
Oh wow. All right. Now it's blowing my mind. I totally thought that was like a legit iceberg with
it
the
looks just
the.
like it.
It really does. It's just a bag. Wow. That's
So,
mind blowing.
or yeah, so I first, was just drawn to this image, thinking that was an iceberg,
Yeah.
and of course, normally, with a wildlife or a nature photo, you don't want kind of man-made things in your photo, or at least for me, I think most people
Yeah.
try to avoid it.
Yep.
And so the reason why I think this works here is that it's kind of using it as like a story-based element. It's
Oh yeah.
not just that they're hoping to fool you into thinking that this is an iceberg. It's
Yeah.
that, like, that's kind of the idea, is that you see this, you think it's an iceberg, and then when you realize that it's a plastic bag, you almost cringe a little bit, like,
Yep.
oh, that's trash in the water there.
Yeah.
But I think that's what the photo is trying to get at. I
That's the
think
point.
it's kind of sad,
Powerful.
but powerful. Yeah, right. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, and I don't mind the vignette on there. I think it brings your eye in nicely.
Yep. Yep. Totally. Dude, that is badass. That is really, really damn cool, man. Yeah. And actually makes me like it even more. Like already incredible just thinking it was an iceberg, just to get that split level and the curve there. And then, yeah, I'm like, the bottom of that iceberg, it's so funny, right? There's things that I'm like, wow, the bottom of the iceberg looks a little off, but I'm just still thinking that. And so until I read what he said over there, I'm like, oh, wait. And then the light bulb starts going off.
Yeah,
Yeah. Such a great conservation image too,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I went through the same kind of mind bending like whoa,
Yeah.
because you also like not only once you realize that it's a plastic bag, then your whole perception of the perspective just completely
The
changes.
size. Yeah.
Yeah, because you thought this was a huge iceberg,
All
and
far
then
away. Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yep. But
So
no, it's a
so
bag really close.
yeah, right. So there's kind of like this whole thing where the whole image gets turned upside down once you realize that.
That's so cool, man. You know what? Funny timing too. I think yesterday or the day before, I just shared a photo of a ruddy turnstone, like messing with this like plastic or styrofoam
Oh
container on the
yeah,
beach. You
with
know,
its eye poking
um,
through.
yeah, exactly. And same, nowhere near. It was not executed anywhere near as good as this. Let me clarify that. But I think, like you said, right, we normally don't try to incorporate man-made or trash or anything like that in it, but I think there is a message to be shared by incorporating that into the photo. And this is one of the best I've seen do that in a very long time, just with the fact that it gives that optical illusion of being a legit iceberg in the Arctic or something like that, and then like you said, mind bending to realize it's not, and just really powerful because of that. So
Yeah, I think it's a good example of like, you know, when you hear or you try to not include man-made things, it's usually because including it wouldn't serve any purpose for the image. But I
correct.
think that it's totally, there's no reason not to if it's for a purpose and it's part of the story,
Yep.
of the image. So I think it's definitely uh, you'd have to be you just imagine if you're in the water there, coming up with this on the spot would
Yeah.
just be like you kind of wonder, was this planned? Did he think about this, or did he just notice this? Because I feel like you want to notice that you could pull that off. It's pretty very creative.
Making the jump from, oh, look at that trash, to how can I incorporate that like
Yeah,
really uniquely is pretty interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
for me, the way it happened, I actually saw the ruddy turnstone actually lifting the plastic up on the beach, searching under it. And I was like, oh, look at him. He's actually now interacting with it. So that was the clue for
Yeah.
me to incorporate it. So it
Right.
was something that actually happened. Whereas this, it's just like the bird flying over, I doubt it was interacting with it. So even harder to kind of make that creative jump to that point. So yeah, again, kudos to the photographer. All right, last one.
Okay. Oh, man, I love these kingfishers.
They're
They're
so beautiful.
they really are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always have a soft spot for the belted kingfishers.
Yeah.
But these what are they? I know they're the
But they're
European
just
ones,
common
common kingfisher.
kingfishers,
I think
I
it's
think.
common kingfisher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I think so. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, here I really love the the pose that the birds has looking down because it kind of knowing the species, you know that he's sitting over water looking for
Yep.
fish, and then your brain kind of like completes the rest of the scene,
Yeah.
and you can kind of dream up what's beneath it there, and
Sure.
just it's something so simple as having that that bird looking down. It really just kind of changes the way that you look at this photo, as opposed to if it had its head turned upright,
Yep.
it would be a nice portrait, but it wouldn't have quite as much interest. And of course, that perch is great with those little red
Yeah, the perch
berries.
is
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's obviously you know, the first thing that you notice is just how
Yes.
great that perch is.
Yeah.
And of
Yeah.
course, having it ending in the frame there, very nice, very
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, and I know Wassa works a ton with these birds, spends tons of times in the hide, and has just on a variety of perches. So it's really, I know he put in a ton of time to get that to happen. And I really like what you said, Tobias, about the looking down thing. For me, that changes it from a portrait, like the head up eye contact is now a portrait where we're connecting with the subject, and this is now more of a behavioral shot. It's like a
mm-hmm.
behavioral portrait of you. Like you said, you can see it actively looking down. It's actively fishing, looking for something to dive at in the water below. And it's just interesting how something so subtle from head
Yeah.
up to head down can just really change the meaning or feeling of that photo. And this one does that well. And yeah, that perch, just the subtle curve on the perch, like leaning down
Yeah.
too,
Yeah. Yeah.
is just such a nice touch. Cause I don't think It'd be nice curving up, but something about it just curving down, I guess with the bird's head curving down, just kind of repeating that down curve.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Just
yeah.
kind of visually, I think works better than if that perch were like straight or just curved up. So yeah, loved
Yeah,
it.
I like that distinction that you made about the kind of switching from a portrait where you're connecting with the subject um, to more of a behavioral thing, because it kind of can it it's when a bird is looking right at the camera, it kind of puts the photographer in the scene,
Yeah.
and it kind of it is a, even though it is subtle, it is a quite different perspective of,
Yep.
when you're looks like you're kind of observing
It is.
the
Yes.
behavior of the bird and what you're
Yep.
doing versus, the bird making contact with the camera. So yeah, that's a good thing to think about. What with your images, what are you going for there? Because it can
Yep.
be it can kind of shift how you think about things and how you might want to shoot the scene.
Correct.
So
Yeah, and for me, that connecting portrait where I have the eye contact, things to me have to be a lot more perfect in that circumstance, right? I need the head
mm-hmm.
angle just right. I don't want the head looking away slightly. I really want that eye contact. There
Yeah,
has
yeah.
to be really good light in there. And when it changes into a more observational or behavioral shot, for me personally, I'm a lot more willing to forgive some of those shortcomings, and not saying this photo has any, but just in
Yeah,
general
yeah,
in my own
yeah.
photography, if the bird is actively doing something and it has cool behavior, I don't need the head to be the perfect angle. I don't need the light to be exactly perfect in the eye. I mean, he still has great light in the eye,
Yeah.
eye on this one, so he's got all of that and the behavior. But for me, it changes that perspective. Like it changes the requirements of the photo for myself when it
Mm-hmm.
goes from a portrait to a more behavioral observational thing.
Yeah, because if you are doing a more behavioral thing, say the example of the bird facing a little bit away,
Yeah.
um, there's nothing inherently wrong with that if it's part of the image and what the
Yep.
image is going for. So a bird looking away, it can be kind of like it's looking into the scene or
Sure.
into, into its environment. And, it's kind of interesting. Sometimes like you see like paintings of birds,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not always that the bird is turned perfectly towards the camera,
Yeah.
perfectly
Yeah.
clean. It's interesting that from a painter's perspective, they're not, obviously they can paint it however they want,
Sure.
and sometimes they'll still choose to,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
make these things that earlier on in my photography, at least, I would look at and think of as an imperfection, when
Yeah.
really, it all depends on the shot and what the shot's going for.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Very
So,
much agree with you, man. Dude, we did it. Nice job, man. You picked some really great
or
shots. Thanks for sharing them with us, man. I really appreciate it.
yeah, yeah, for sure, man. We're
Yeah.
already done.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, right? Went quick.
Goes by so fast.
Yeah, it did. Well,
Yep.
you say so fast. I don't even know. I'm trying to see if I have if it says how long we've been recording. Yeah, it's 42 minutes already. Can you
Well, I
believe
guess
that?
I guess that's not particularly fast, but
Yeah, no, but I mean, it
went
goes
by
fast for
quickly.
us. So yes, yeah, it certainly did. So, best place for people to follow is just on your Instagram, right?
Yeah, for now. Yep, yep.
Cool, cool. And you're hoping to be posting some more stuff there soon, right?
Yeah, I should be posting there soon. I've
Love it.
been pretty slow about posting for the past several months or so, but uh, I want to share more work. So
Excellent, man. And it sounds like you got the time to do that now, right?
yep, yep, for
Nice,
sure.
man. All right, dude. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah,
It
you're
was
welcome.
a fun time.
It was. It was. All right. Take it easy.
All right, you too.
All right. Bye.